A family source tells People magazine they love Bobbi Kristina. They want her to recover. She's not going to. Even if she were to have any sort of recovery, Judy, the state she will be in will be essentially a vegetative state. She certainly will not be Bobbi Kristina. She will be something else. And it is, frankly, delaying the inevitable and allowing grief to determine and dictate care. Do you agree?
Absolutely, Dr. Drew. And unfortunately, the grieving process and all the stages of grief cannot start until this family lets go of her physically. Because while she's there physically, they are left to their tiny speck of hope that really withholds the grieving process from this family.
That's right. Now, Vanessa, you've been with me through this whole thing. You've been sort of struggling with me. Do you get the picture now? Is it coming into focus for you?
It does come into focus, but I think maybe we have some facts wrong. I think maybe this whole entire family isn't holding out this hope. It sounds to me like Sissy, if Bobbi Brown came to her and said,
reasonable. Yeah.
She seemed pretty reasonable.
Yeah,
I think she is ready to let go. I think if they did unplug the machines or however that works, I think she would be okay with that decision. I think it's solely on Bobbi Brown. I think he's having some difficulty. I feel like guilt is there, but I also feel like some other things may be in play that we just don't know about.
You talking about something with some wrangling over something that we don't know about, or?
It could be wrangling, but it could be... I just feel like Emory is such a great hospital, and I know that she's moved from that facility, but I feel like if they spoke to Bobbi Brown the way you speak to me, there would be no other reason other than to let her go.
I've got a nurse specialist who's joining me, Alice Benjamin. She's a clinical nurse specialist. And Alice, thanks for joining us. I love having nurses in here because nurses are the ones that end up doing the futile care. You're the ones there with the family, with the patient, day in and day out, watching the skin slough off, watching the joints contract, watching the secretions build up. How do we get people to understand that these are hopeless situations that only delay the inevitable and cause agony and suffering for the patient?
Well, Dr. Drew, everyone is suffering in this process. The person that's laying in the bed that I'm taking care of is suffering. And as nurses, we suffer too because we feel the patient's pain. And also the family, the friends, the visitors, they're suffering. But there's nothing like taking care of that patient and seeing, as you mentioned, all of those things that can happen. The longer we have someone on life support, we're actually putting them at risk for other things. And the family doesn't see that.
And they're inevitable. There's going to be pneumonia. There's going to be urinary sepsis. There's going to be
going to break down.
Skin's infection. It's going to happen. And if you back off some of these support measures, God will take her instead of us playing God. I'm going to show you some Facebook posts, Alice. Katie says, if it takes Bobbi 5 years, then it takes him 5 years. No one can make that decision for him. No one has to live with that decision but him. But how do we get people to get to the point where they can make these decisions effectively? Brian on Facebook, because they have money, they're making the selfish decision to keep her body animated by machinery. Do you have any idea how the body starts to break down when kept alive by machines? It's not like Sleeping Beauty. And Alice, that is a wonderful way of saying that. And that's what we have such trouble getting people to understand. It's not Sleeping Beauty. It's something far more gruesome.